Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to Stormgate Central. So in today's video, I thought we could go over a new interview from Tim Morten. Here he's going over a lot of the future of the game. This was an interview taken from the Take TV, I believe it was called the Battle Time Tournament. This was just shown yesterday over on Take TV's channel. It was also streamed on Roddy's channel as well. And in the midst of the stream, they had this pretty lengthy sort of 6-7 minute interview with Tim Morten, the CEO of Giant Games, that I don't think has been shown anywhere else, so a lot of you guys may not have seen this, so I thought it would be fun if we just went over it here and kind of reacted to some of the things that he has to say. Before we jump in though, don't forget guys, if you do enjoy the content here on the channel, hit up that subscribe button, plenty more Stormgate content to come in the future. Thank you guys so much for your support so far.
Hi, I'm Tim Morten from Frost Giant. Stormgate launched into early access 10 days ago with full free-to-play, and this was a huge moment for us as a studio. Early access is really the beginning of our journey of collecting feedback broadly from players and making changes to the game based on that feedback to continue to improve and to make the best possible game that we can. We've got a whole bunch of new content still to build, including new game modes, new campaign missions, new commanders, heroes. There's tons to come. We've also got a lot of polish and improvement of the content that we've already delivered that is planned for the weeks and months ahead. We've just done a balance patch to update the race balance, the faction balance, but we also have a bigger patch coming in the second half of September, and that'll include a new hero for the game. It'll also include the beginning of some of the larger changes that we're making in response to feedback, but really that's gonna be an ongoing process. It's not like everything's gonna happen all at once, but about every 6 weeks, we're expecting to make these bigger patches that will include some new features and some bigger changes, but we'll continue to iterate more granularly on balance in between those.
So personally, I really like that. I love the fact that they are releasing new content on a pretty regular cadence. I know a lot of people have many problems with Stormgate at the moment. A lot of things need improvement, but as Tim said here, this is an early access project, right? There are many things in the game that are currently unfinished, but I think even so, releasing those things, like he said, every 6 weeks or so, and then also doing balance patches in between that, makes the game really fun, because essentially every maybe like 2, 3 or 4 weeks you've got something to come back to, you've got something to check out. So maybe even if the game is unfinished to you and you're like, okay, I don't want to play it in this state, you can still keep tabs on the game, keep checking it out every few weeks and see how it is changing, because it's free to play, right? So you don't even need to go and buy it in order to do that. You know, so far we've already seen 2 balance patches here that have addressed several issues with the game, and it sounds like we're not too far off the next content drop either.
At this very moment, back in Irvine and really around the world, because a number of our team members are outside Irvine and distributed, everyone is working on a stack rank list of various changes and improvements that were derived from things that we heard and also from priorities that we've set as a team to keep making Stormgate better and to grow the complete set of experiences that players can have in the game.
So I think this is a really great approach to the development of the game. You know, as developers, they're not just burying their heads in the sand and saying, this is our vision, this is the way we're going to make the game, and we don't care about the community. They are actively listening to the community, listening to all the feedback, and it sounds like they're sort of making a triage system for the game, right? We've already seen that they're going to put more resources into finishing the well, not finishing the campaign, but making it a little bit more polished, right? Going over those cinematics and sort of sprucing them up a little bit, because that's one of the things that the community has had the most negative feedback around. And it seems like they're really paying attention to that. They're looking at all of these communities, whether it's Reddit, Discord, YouTube, Twitch comments, wherever you're leaving that feedback, they are looking into that and then setting up this triage system and saying, okay guys, what do we want to work on first? And a really good example of this is just yesterday, during Roddy's stream, he was saying how there's no in-game timer when you're observing a game, and then all of a sudden, there was an interview with the guy who's kind of heading up a lot of the competitive scene and a lot of the tournaments and stuff. He appeared in the studio giving an interview to the guys there at Take TV, and he noted how he'd also been watching Roddy's stream and that they are going to be implementing that in the future. I have to say, better replay functionality and also observer functionality is one of my top pieces of feedback as well. At the moment, we can't even see health bars in replay, so that will be pretty high on the list for me. But again, what may be high on the list for me may not be the same as what is high on the list for you.
Some of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got from players really seemed to be driven by a desire to level up the visuals of the game, the sound of the game, and in particular, the campaign experience. I think the way that we work as a dev team, and this is probably true for every RTS, the easiest thing to build at the beginning is the competitive mode, because you don't need any AI. You really only need a single race, a single map at the beginning to stand that up. Then as you start to build out AI functionality, cooperative becomes possible, but you need obviously sort of a more sophisticated lobby system because you've got multiple players. You need a little bit more scripting. And finally, the hardest thing, and so by necessity in the development plan, the last thing that you work on is campaign. And we were very excited to get campaign to a point that the story can be told, but there are a lot of aspects of campaign that are still fresh, hot off the presses. And as a result of that, we weren't surprised that we got some critical feedback around the presentation of the story and even the storyline itself. So those are things that we are continuing to iterate on and that we're excited to eventually be able to incorporate new assets and even some new performances. So rest assured, things will continue to get better.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. There's been much speculation recently as to why they've developed the game in this way, knowing how important the campaign is, knowing that the campaign is generally a first impression for most players. That's what you're going to play, right? When you jump into a brand new RTS, you want to learn the ropes, you want to get to grips with the units, you just want to play it against the AI, and rather than going in a custom mode, you just want to jump into the campaign and get to experience that narrative-driven story at the same time. I think if we go back to maybe the old days of RTS, like Command & Conquer, maybe even StarCraft 1, multiplayer was more of a tacked-on mode then. The campaign, the single player, was what games were all about. The multiplayer was really just a way that you could give the player an extra lease of life on the game to eke out a few extra hours, and in the case of games like Brood War, that just so happened to be almost like a happy accident. I don't want to take anything away from Blizzard and say that they didn't put any time and thought into actually making a well-crafted multiplayer mode, but I definitely don't think they expected the game to take off in the way that it did, right? But now it's just become a given that the multiplayer mode of a new RTS like Stormgate is going to be one of those pivotal pillars. It's not just going to be something that people pick up for a few hours and then put down again. It's expected to be this big game mode. And so when Tim sort of explains it like that in terms of development and how it's easier to develop things that way, well, I think it makes a lot of sense. But I am really looking forward to see what they do with the campaign. I think the next update is going to be coming sometime in September or October, like the next content drop for the game. So is that just going to be like improvements to the campaign missions that we have right now? Is it going to be an additional 3 campaign missions, maybe on top of that? I'm really excited to see how that unfolds.
We recently shared that we have increased the priority and even moved up in the schedule our 3 versus 3 competitive mode. This is one of the modes in the game that we consider to be the most innovative and even experimental for the genre, because it's not just 3 versus 3 competitive in the same way that Warcraft or StarCraft did it. It is focused on heroes. It is also using a new win condition and even a new map design that is tailored to this specific game mode concept that we've got. We're actively working on it, so we're not quite ready to share it, but we will very soon be incorporating it into the game at the end of October. And we're excited to get it out there. We'll share more details as we get closer, but as a team, that's become a big priority for us.
So yeah, man, 3v3 coming to the game soon. We already knew about this, of course, they covered it in a recent blog post, but now we know it's apparently coming towards the end of October. I think in the blog post they said it was coming before the end of the year, so to hear that it's going to be as early as October is really, really nice. I guess that's going to be like the next sort of major content patch that we're going to get there. I think players really wanted this because a lot of people just don't want to jump into 1v1 off the deep end, let's say, and go head to head against another player. They prefer to just play with their friends, and 3v3 I think is really going to help to lean into that social aspect of the game that Frost Giant Studios have been banging on about since they started making the game, that they wanted to make it super social. I know a lot of critique has been on the fact that there is no in-game chat, there's no sort of like clan functionality, and all of these social aspects sort of seem to be missing on the game, despite the fact that Frost Giant Games have sort of been hyping that up a lot. So seeing 3v3 here is a good start.
The players that we've got are so passionate, and we are grateful for that passion. It's a thing that motivates all of us at Frost Giant, our passion for RTS. It's why we built this company. It's why we're building this game. The thing that players can do to help us the most is play the game and give us feedback. Give us constructive feedback is obviously preferred, but feedback on the mode that you love the most. It doesn't matter if that's co-op campaign 1v1 or soon 3v3. Just play the game, give us your honest feelings, give us your honest suggestions, and that really helps us set the priorities for how we move forward as a dev team. And hopefully you're already seeing changes that improve the game as a result of the feedback that we're getting.
Yep, couldn't agree more there. Definitely keep it constructive, guys. I really see a lot of feedback, of course, everywhere, right? There's stuff over on Steam, there's stuff on Reddit, Discord, Twitch, YouTube, everywhere, but there's also just a lot of crap in between it, right? We see people, I mean, I do personally on my channel here, they'll just leave a comment saying, dead game. And, like, who is that really helping? Presumably, if you're watching a video like this, or you're socializing in some sort of circle that enjoys Stormgate, or is interested in Stormgate at the very least, you want the game to succeed. So by leaving just random comments like that that don't really help anybody and aren't constructive, I don't think it's really helping anyone out. It's rather doing the opposite. It's sort of trying to just build unnecessary negativity onto the game just for the sake of it. So I understand that some people have been disappointed. They maybe got their hopes up that this was going to be like the next StarCraft 3 or something, and those hopes have been dashed. But if you care about RTS and the future of RTS, then leaving proper, detailed, constructive criticism is the best thing that you can do.
Our plan is to spend at least a year from our early access launch getting to a 1.0. Could be even longer. We're not trying to draw a fixed line in the sand for this is the point that Stormgate is going to be a 1.0 release, because we don't know until we see the response from players that what we're delivering really lines up with what players want. And that's the beauty of early access as a process, is that we get to iterate together. And I know it's not the same way that Blizzard has historically launched games or other big publishers, but as an independent developer, this is a really powerful way for us to build a great game and to start with a smaller budget than we had back in the Blizzard days, but still a meaningful enough budget to put something out there that we're proud of. And we really are proud of the work that we've done so far, even though I know that we still have a lot of work to go. So the biggest thing you can do to help us is play the game, give us your feedback, and hopefully continue to support us as a dev team and as a product. I want to express sincere thanks from all of us at Frost Giant to you for being part of the Stormgate community. Please keep tuning in to tournaments like this one, and please keep giving us your feedback, whether that's on Discord, the Steam forums, Reddit, wherever you engage. We are so grateful to have you as part of this community.
So there we go, guys. Always humbling, I think, to see Tim speak here. You know, it's got to be hard to be a developer of the game and see so many people have negative comments about it. You know, there's been a lot of positive comments about it as well, and I think the 1v1 mode has been the sort of crowning jewel of the game at the moment. That's been the most fun, at least I know that's the case for me, but it still has to be hard for the devs, I think, to read all of his negativity online. And so to see Tim still sit there and, you know, not be bitter about it, not be angry about it, just be sort of humbled by the people that play his game or their game and leave constructive feedback is really, really nice to see. I think it really shines through that they do care about the game. They care about the RTS genre. So whenever I see people say that, like, oh, this is just a cash grab, I'm like, really? I mean, it seems so apparent to me that they really care about RTS, and You know, making a new RTS game is not an easy undertaking in the current day and age of computer game development. I thought it was also really nice to hear what he said about not drawing a line in the sand of like, okay, this is the day we're going to launch into our 1.0 release, and however much content is in the game then, that's just going to be how it is. They don't want to draw that line in the sand, they rather just want to launch when the game is ready. When the game is meeting the expectations of RTS players, and it is going to garner those more positive reviews, then they want to launch the 1.0 of the game. Who knows how long that's going to take? Maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes more than a year, right? But it seems like they're pretty dedicated in meeting that goal either way. Guys, as always, leave me your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think about what Tim had to say. Subscribe for more Stormgate content. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.